Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Daily. Glad you made it. We got some great things to cover with you today. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. And I'm going to kick it over to you, Clay, to kind of outline what we're going to be covering today.
Yeah, so these benefits we're going to talk about today range from $1,000 all the way to $117,000. So it is a really big deal. You definitely want to watch the video in its entirety. Some of those benefits we're going to talk about is the car grant. And yes, you can get a car grant from the VA. We're going to talk about home improvements or adaptive housing. Then we're going to shift gears and talk about a separation health assessment and what does that actually look like, whether it's an exit exam from the DoD or a separation health exam from the VA. And then we're going to talk about a very, very popular benefit that I would argue everyone gets wrong all the time, which is the clothing allowance. And a ton of veterans do qualify for it, but then a ton of veterans don't submit the paperwork or the required claim for the allowance. So we're just really leaving money on the table. And with that, Jason, go ahead and kick it off.
All right, awesome. So, it's really coming down to grants and allowances, extra money in your pocket. And I will tell you, and I think we both say this all the time, Clay, it's in one way or another, is we are literally trying to prevent the I wish I would have known, right? It's too many times that both of us have seen, right? That the person that's like, oh, I could have used this 15, 30, 25, whatever years ago. And so now we're trying to just get as far upstream as we can with this information. As far as the role and what we're going to be going through today, Clay threw in there the separation what?
It's the separation health assessment, and then you also have the adaptive housing. So there are two acronyms that go like this.
And there's also, so the separation health assessment is another SHA. There is an SHA that's called the special home adaptation. And so that is one that I want to dive into. If you have anything on the health assessment, or if you're kind of calling it the same thing, I'm not quite sure. So let me know which way, because I'd love to be able to either separate it out or include it in.
Let's do both.
Okay, perfect. Let's lead off with you with the separation health assessment, because if you're still in, you need to be prepared for that. And then we'll move into all of these additional resources with regard to grants and allowances. All right, so back to you, Clay.
All right, so the separation health assessment, it's kind of the starting point, all right? So traditionally, prior to the BDD claim, the DoD did an exit exam, right? So all of my peers, and I'm sure your peers and everyone before us, all did an exit exam, or we were supposed to, right?
That's
that's the key point. What the VA has now done, I say now within the last few years, is they made an agreement with the DoD that says, hey, if veterans submit a BDD claim, which is benefits delivery at discharge, we will take care of the separation health assessment. And that really leads into these other benefits. One of the most common claimed disabilities that would rate one of these benefits is a skin condition, right? So if you're doing your separation health assessment, you're doing your BDD claim, you get rated for acne, right? Or scarring or whatever skin condition like eczema. Any of those that would require a cream, that cream would bleach your pillows, it would bleach your sheets, it would bleach your clothes, and therefore you would rate the annual clothing allowance. And so the separation health assessment is exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of step one to, hey, here's how you're going to be rated. And now we're going to take it to, well, after you're rated, what benefits do you are you eligible for? Is it a car grant? Okay. Is it a adaptive home? Is it whatever that looks like? So that's really the starting point, the separation health assessment, the SHA, and not to be confused with the other SHA or the other SAH. All right, Jason.
Exactly. Perfect. So again, what we're doing here is we're front loading this with, look, you need to make sure you get service connected before you can really start to peel back the onion to these other types of benefits within the VA, which again can be substantial. Like Clay said, up to $117,000 in some cases. So this is not money that you want to leave on the table if you qualify for it. I will add one more thing to the conversation of the essentially the exit health separation health assessment. When you joined, you did a health assessment. When you were in, you typically would do an annual physical health assessment. Then when you're exiting, like Clay said, you should, right? And I know there's plenty of you out there that did not and are wondering why you didn't, but that's, I guess par for the course. However, what I always suggest everybody to do, because sometimes we're talking to people who have already been out. If you've already been out and you've been out for a while, you may not remember if you even did one. Order all of your records, all of your service treatment records. Do that with the SF 180, standard form 180. I always think of 180 as it's half of 360, so I'm turning around and looking backwards. So SF 180, looking back, go get those records, right? You can order that. The backlog is now cleared, so hopefully it won't take more than several months. Get those records, thumb through them, because if you annotated on there that you have migraines, or you have this, or you have that, or symptoms of this, or symptoms of that. It's you self-attesting to a lot of this stuff, and you write down your little explanation of why it's an issue. But that's your nexus, right? That helps you prove your nexus for that condition. So it's just kind of a good little side note, and really a public service announcement at this point for folks. So I'm glad that you included that in on this, Clay, because it's important for folks to understand, and it really does kind of become applicable as we move through this. So with that, let's jump into the first major topic, and I'm thinking the VA automobile allowance and adaptive equipment is a good place to start. People always are curious how they can qualify for that. Clay, what do you have on it?
Yeah, so the most, we'll start with the typical veteran that would qualify for that. But that typical veteran that would qualify is actually extremely rare. But it would set the framework for understanding who would qualify. So, for instance, if you have a double amputee, that would be an allowance for a car grant to adapt your car to be able to hit the brake and hit the gas, right? And so that framework basically means your disabilities caused you to have some sort of adaptation to that vehicle. So amputee obviously is going to be at the top of that list, but that's not the only veteran, right? It could be the loss of use. And so, for instance, if you have an ankle condition that has severe limited range of motion, that's not severe. Severe would be like this, okay? If you have severe limited range of motion or the loss of use, which is called ankylosis, that would be a disability that would help you qualify for this benefit and many, many others. And there are tons of conditions for the car. So the ankles, the knees, basically your entire legs and below, all of that would also be a good benefit or disability for that benefit, excuse me. But it could also be vision, right? Your vision could impair your driving. Any disability that impairs your driving would kind of open up the avenue for this car grant and many, many other benefits that we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. Also, a couple of the other ones on here are a severe burn injury is on the list. ALS is on the list. The ankylosis that you talked about in both hips or knees, absolutely. And then obviously the amputation pieces. Now, as far as qualifying, it's important to remember that it must be service connected, like Clay said, and I just want to double tap on that. I mean, if you're not service connected for your diabetes, and then you ended up getting some leg foot issues and you got your feet amputated for some reason because of the diabetes, but it's not service connected, you're not going to qualify based on that unless you get it service connected. So just something to think about. And that's why I think that both of us really stress, look, if you have a condition that is service connectable, get it service connected.
Hmm.
It's an important thing because of all of the residual benefits that you can get sometimes, whether it's for you as you age, whether it's for your spouse when you pass away, whatever it is, make sure that you're getting service connected for these things. As far as the types of benefits that you can get a one-time payment to help you buy that specially equipped vehicle. And then in some situations, one or more adaptive equipment grants can to change a vehicle so that it has features like, a certain type of steering system or brakes, seats, windows, lift equipment, and so forth. Do you have any idea on how much that car grant can bring in?
It can go up to $22,355.72. I have that right in front of me. There's no way I would remember that, but it's about
Right.
22 grand. And something to remember is this channel is focused on VA disability, which is typically for veterans. But this specific grant also applies to those on active duty, to include the National Guard. So if you are if this applies to you, regardless of what your status is, you can take advantage of that. So, a lot of service members, after they have a severe, serious injury, they stay in service technically for medical reasons and administrative purposes, right? Which is a super extremely sad situation, just to be real. But if that's the case, you can still apply for this car grant. So it's primarily for veterans, but it also applies to active duty service members, to include the Guard and Reserves, for those that rate the benefit.
Absolutely. Now, I will throw out there that I think that the dollar amount may have changed. I have so we both pulled up notes, right? So it just, whatever, it could be the source. So on the VA's website, under 2024 VA special benefit allowance rates, it states here automobile allowance effective October 1st, 2023 is up to $25,603.02.
All right.
So
Well tied.
I don't know. Maybe you're looking at last year's or something. I mean, there's so much. And look, that's the whole purpose why we're doing this stuff, right? Is because one, you may land on something that's outdated. We land on things that are outdated. And sometimes it's, hey, two sets of eyes is better than one sometimes. So in any case, so 25,603, according to the VA's website, effective October 1st, 2023. Remember that the VA has two kind of time frames in which they update their payments or how much they award for certain benefits. One is our COLA, right, which is effective in December, but it doesn't pay out until January. And then there's other things that they change that happen on the fiscal year, which is October 1st for the federal fiscal year, and that this is one of them. So in any case, absolutely right. This is a great benefit for folks. The form that you would want to use for the application for the automobile and other conveyance and adaptive equipment is the VA form 21-4502. So 21-4502 is that form if you are interested in going through that. I always suggest folks that, look, get the form, read through it. Even if you're thinking like, maybe I don't qualify today, if you think you're on track to qualifying for something like this, get the form, read through it, have your spouse read through it, sit it somewhere so you can kind of remember that this is a thing. And then anytime, here's my word of advice when it comes to VA forms. If you're going to fill out a form for the VA, always go to the VA's website directly and pull up the form from their website, because if you don't, you might get an outdated form, and that's just going to delay the process. And when in doubt on anything, give a call to the VA and ask them directly. And as always, Clay, right? Contact an accredited rep. They can look through it for you and give you that second set of eyes as well. Anything else on car grants from your side, Clay?
I want to speak on the accredited rep. So,
Yeah.
the companies out there, the ads you see on Facebook, the attorneys, the claims agents, they're really going to focus in on disability, right? That's really the cream of the crop. The only people, to my knowledge, that have training, actual training, that have to pass the test for these benefits and many, many more benefits outside of these four are your VSOs, right? Your VSOs with VBMS access, the ones that had to test to be accredited through the organization or county or state by the VA. Those accredited reps are really going to be your one-stop shop for everything, to include these niche benefits like a car grant, right? Not every veteran's going to have access to a car grant. Not a big deal. But if you are, right, you don't want to leave 25 grand on the table. Also, when you were speaking, I double checked. You're 100% right. 2024, that is the amount. I was looking at previous years. All right. Yeah.
Don't make me. I'll get down.
Yeah. Moving on to home improvements and structural alterations, which again, a very, very niche benefit, but it is absolutely crucial, especially if this applies to you. So I like to think things Barney style, right? If I have a bathroom that has a tub and it has a door, closing the bathroom from the rest of the restroom, and I have my toilet there and my sink, this benefit, let's say I was in a wheelchair, I could use this grant to alter that bathroom, right? So instead of the tub, it would be a roll in, roll out shower, maybe some bars, like something you'd see in a hospital, right? I just got out of the hospital with baby number 4. That shower was roll in, roll out. They had a bunch of, things on the walls for women after they give birth or C-sections to kind of prop themselves up. Same exact thing. And the toilet would have, handles on the sides to lift yourself up if your legs didn't work, whatever that looks like. So whenever we say HISA or the home improvement structural alterations, that's essentially what we're talking about. The bathroom is one example. There are many. But if that applies to you, you can absolutely take advantage of this. And this benefit, you want to talk about saving money. If you're able to tap into this, you will save thousands, okay? And countless, who knows? Because you'd probably have to get a loan for that in the first place. So this benefit can absolutely come in clutch. Jason, that's all I'll say on that. Go ahead and take it away.
Absolutely. So when it comes to home improvement type stuff, okay, there's really 3 kind of silos. This is the smallest one, okay? So just to kind of put it in perspective, we're going to go from small to large. And this is the small one, HISA, HISA, the home improvement structural alterations. It's funny. I actually pulled up the kind of like a little, I guess, cheat sheet here on it. And it's funny because it says here, what HISA will not pay for. And I love that because, we tend to get excited and go, okay, what can I do with this extra money? Well, here's some things that it won't take care of. And this is not an exhaustive list. This is just some examples of what it won't pay for. Walkways to exterior buildings. So maybe you have, another building on your property and you want to have a nice walkway to get there, right? But that's not your living quarters. It's not your primary abode. So they're not going to do a walkway to that exterior building for you. Spa, hot tub, jacuzzi. Although, I almost think that they should. I'm just saying it could be therapeutic, but they won't do those. Exterior decking, that would be nice, but that's more of a luxury. And new construction. So, and here's the thing. It's $6,800. $6,800 is the maximum amount for HISA. And it does say that it's a lifetime, that's all you can get in your lifetime for this. Now, I will throw out there that there are a lot of older homes in the United States, right? Not every house is built in, 2020. There's some older homes with some very narrow passageways and crampy bathrooms and all that type of stuff where maybe you don't need to do a lot of work, but you need to do a little bit in order to make it a little more accessible. And so this could be something that could help with that. Again, it is a lifetime maximum amount of $6,800. It does say, and I'm going to read these 5 bullet points here. It says this benefit provides medically necessary improvements and structural alterations to veterans slash service members. So back to Clay's thing on, it's not just veterans, it can also be service members, primary residents for the purposes of, and then it has 5 bullet points, allowing entrance to or exit from the primary residence. So to enter and leave. Use of essential lavatory and sanitary facilities. It's funny that they, whatever, to your bathroom, right?
Yeah.
So I'm surprised they should have just used head, you know,
Yeah.
use of essential head.
Latrine.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and then it did mention the roll-in showers like Clay was talking about, allowing accessibility to kitchen or bathroom sinks or counters, lowering counters and sinks. So if you go from a standing ability to, okay, now I'm stuck in a wheelchair, you know, unless you have one of those big fancy, you know, lift you up wheelchairs, you're going to be much lower than you used to be, and counters will all of a sudden become a huge hurdle. They will cut the top of your cabinets and drop your counter down and make that accessible for you. That is huge. Talk about a life-altering situation, right? Improving entrance paths or driveways in immediate area of the home. So when you think about like handicap parking in some areas, if you're living kind of a hilly area and you go to some store there, they may have parking that's at a slant, except for the handicapped ones, they level down. Okay, so they'll create that type of a parking situation for you where you have some level ground to be able to maneuver. Because again, you know, if you're packing in and packing out your wheelchair, your collapsible foldable wheelchair, and you sit it down and it rolls down the hill, that sucks,
That's a
right?
problem.
So that becomes a problem real fast. So last one here, improving plumbing or electrical systems made necessary due to installation of the home for medical equipment. So that just gives you some of the ideas. This is a great program, and I will be frank that this is often not even thought of
Yeah.
by folks, because you typically go to the biggest, baddest benefit and go, well, I don't qualify for that. And then you think that that's just all encompassing, and it's not. Again, there's silos with different requirements. So anything else from you, Clay, on this?
It goes, there's 2 things actually. So a lot of veterans, especially veterans that are at the severity to kind of tap in these benefits, because let's be real, if you're taking advantage of these benefits, something's going on, right? And it's a sad situation, and it sucks, just to be blunt about it. But you know that you might be hesitant to take advantage of this benefit because of pride or whatever reason. And what I would say to those is don't do it for yourself. But if you have a spouse or your children, right, they also have to deal with our disabilities as well. And so it's a toll on them too. So if these benefits will kind of alleviate that, it's not going to take it away altogether, but it would make your life and their life easier. So I would always, you know, keep your family, keep your loved ones first. If you don't want this benefit for yourself, do it for them. Second thing is, it goes back to what Jason and I preach all the time, which is be properly rated. Everyone sees 100% P&T, and I get it. That's a great benefit. There's great state benefits. There's obviously a monetary value to that as well. But even if that's 30% or it's 100% and you have extra stuff, okay, it's being properly rated instead of just what you needed to get to 100%, would potentially allow you to tap in these benefits. Maybe not now, but I'm 31. In 30 years, I'll be 61 if my math is right. Okay, when I'm 61, that might, you know, my disabilities might look a little different. That would allow me to tap into these. So it doesn't matter where you're at on your disability journey. The goal is to be properly rated. Period. Point blank. Yeah, that's really all I wanted to add when it comes to the HISA.
Awesome. So I got a couple more things to add. So don't think that this is only for a property that you own. You
Yeah.
have to live in it. It has to be your primary residence, but it can be a rental. Now, obviously, you're not going to do work to your rental property without notifying your landlord, right? And them being okay with it. So you need to contact the property owner and have them on board with you making changes to the home. You need to get that notarized, and there's a whole kind of a checklist for that. But the form that you would want to use if you were to apply for this is the VA form 10-0103, the 10-0103. And again, HISA is what it's called. You could type in VA HISA, HISA, and that will bring you to the page. Now, I'll run through here. There's only 3 kind of categories here. It says, when applying for a HISA benefit, and again, the bar is lower, the lower the amount you're going to get. Makes sense, right? If it's a small amount of money, it's not going to have as many requirements as, say, 117,000. So when applying for the HISA benefit, a completed HISA application package must include the following. And it has a few things here. A prescription written or approved by a VA physician, which includes your name, address, phone number, a description of the prescribed project, including the area of the home to be improved, right? So you're going to have a conversation with your doctor about the bathroom, right? And that you need an easy access tub or whatever. And then the diagnosis and medical justification for the improvement, right? Again, you're having that conversation with your doctor. So you can wrap that up pretty easily yourself. Then that completed form that I told you, the 10-0103. And then for renters, the signed and notarized statement from the owner authorizing the improvement or structural alteration. And then 4, a written itemized estimate of costs. So you just get, some estimates from contractors. And then 5, a color photograph of the unimproved area. And that's it. Pretty simple, right? But we tend, because I think a lot of us have our own kind of extra PTSD with dealing with the VA. So we just assume that it's all going to suck and it's all a nightmare, and the less I have to talk with them, the better. I don't suggest that route. I suggest going for the things in which you qualify for. And if you qualify for, if you're not taking a shower because you can't get in and out of it, then this is something you need to have a conversation with your doctor about, a conversation with your landlord, or if you own the home, then that's fine. You just move forward. So with that, I'm going to end it there because I start to get on a soapbox and start getting all crazy and loud. So with that, let's move to the next one. Clay, what do you have for us?
The SHA, not to be confused with an SAH or the other SHA, which is adaptive housing. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the SAH. See, I just
It
did
gets
it myself.
confusing.
I just did it myself. So the SHA is we're kind of going in that tier of home improvements. Okay, it's the special home adaptation. SHA. It's a
Okay.
grant, very, very similar to HISA. The same thing applies, okay? It's the same exact scenario. It's looking at adaptive homes for maybe you lost your ankles, right? Not just amputation, okay? Not just amputation, it's also ankylosis. Maybe there's severe limited range of motion for your ankles, your knees, your back, your shoulders, okay? So for instance, if I can't reach the top cabinet because my shoulder can't go past here or here, right? That's an issue. So I may need some SHA home adaptation grants, which are very, very similar to HISA and the CAR grants when it comes to being approved for this benefit. Severe burn injuries is another great example for that as well. Jason, what do you have on that?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it just having this conversation, right? This is the goal of this. And even we have these little light bulbs that pop on as we're having conversations. And this is kind of our world and has been our world for quite some time. And it's like, look, if you qualify for the automobile allowance, well, then you might actually qualify for one of these too. So why aren't you doing both, right? So You can definitely stack these things up. The SHA, and again, remember, we're talking about 3 different kind of silos with regard to home improvement grants. It is a grant, so it's just, here you go, extra money to help you situate your home. If you do qualify for that SHA, because there's another one, right? So if you do qualify for the SHA grant, you can get up to $23,444 for fiscal year 2024. They move up every year, pretty much, that I've always seen. That's the current total maximum allowed for the SHA grant. And, here's a question, and I don't know if you know the answer or not, Clay, but my question is, do I have to use the total grant amount this year? If I get awarded it, do I have to use it all in that
No,
year?
you don't. No, you don't. You do not have to use the entire grant. And there's always, so when it comes to, and this is really over my head, right? Because this is something I don't really fully understand in its entirety, just to be transparent with everyone. But there's always exceptions. Okay, there's always exceptions. So if you do have a serious disability that's preventing, you from taking a shower, you from reaching the cabinets, you from driving, you from parking. I mean, the list of, let's just talk the worst case scenario, and you could potentially tap into all these benefits. There's always exceptions to these policies, and it's really a case by case. That's about all I can really get into that, because it's such a niche benefit. But whenever you're looking at various grants, whether that's HISA or the home adaptation or the SAH, which we'll talk about here soon, you can do multiple. Again, it depends, and it really depends on what's going on in your disability.
Right.
And something to really, because you mentioned it, but I want it kind of, just kind of got lost with everything that we've said. The number one thing I want to bring up is talk to your physicians, talk to your healthcare team, and be open. Hey, I can't reach the cabinets. That's something they need to know. Hey, I haven't showered in 2 weeks because I can't. That's something they need to know. Okay, so just like submitting a claim, the same thing applies here. You got to have evidence. Doesn't matter what benefit you're going for, whether that's disability, the car grant, or a home adaptation. You have to have evidence. And I really want that to be, the boom, number one thing.
Yeah.
Get the evidence first. Now let's talk about all these benefits. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's really all I have on the SHA when it comes to home adaptations. Back to you, Jason.
So the answer, as you said, to the question of do you have to use it all in the year, you said no. Yes, it is no. So correct. I think my chicken's laying an egg, so that's exciting. So for those that hear it,
Nice.
it's breakfast.
You also
All
have
right.
4 kids now. Congrats.
Yeah. So you got 4 kids. I got 4 chickens. It was supposed to be 4 hens, but one's a rooster, so that was a whole other thing. All right. So no, if you're eligible for an SAH or an SHA grant, you can use the money from the grant up to 6 different times over your lifetime, which is pretty fantastic. It goes on to say, depending on the adaptations you need and the bid from your builder, you can use as much or as little of your grant as you need this year. If you don't use the full amount, you can use more money from the grant in future years, which is fantastic. And, back to what Clay was saying, working with an accredited rep, and obviously for those that know me, I was accredited through 2 different organizations with the VA. I was the VSO, Veteran Service Officer, running a team and all that good stuff. And yes, I had to go take a test with the VA. Well, first I had to take it with the organization I was getting accredited with. Then I had to go take it with the VA. Then every year you do continuing education to, there's always changes, right? There's constant changes. So you're getting it straight from the VA through this continuing education and all that good stuff. I will tell you that the biggest pro about using that veteran service office that does it full time and is just constantly, even if they're busy, it's actually a good sign, because look, would you rather work with somebody who, hey, look, I've been doing this for 20 years and I do about 2 claims a month?
Yeah.
right? So 2 claims a month for 20 years, or I've been doing this for 5 years for this organization, and I've pushed out probably 10,000 claims, right? Or whatever the number is, right? So it's not in how many years you've been doing it, it's how many different types of claims you've seen. So in those types of situations, those folks in those offices are going to see claims for these types of things. We have those coming into my office all the time, whether it's, certain spouse benefits and death benefits and burial benefits and housing grants and HISA and, the car grants. It doesn't matter. They see it in that office, which means that you have somebody with some sort of an experience regarding it. You don't need to remember all of this. We're just telling you so it's in your awareness, so then you could take that information somewhere and actually sit down and have, call it cheeks in the seat, right? Get the
Yeah.
cheeks in the seat and have that conversation with somebody who might be able to help you get from here to there. This is a great program, and I'm going to throw in that, they're at the end of this, Clay. Let's also add in. There's another one called TRA, which is temporary residence adaptation. And so at the end of all this, the end of this video, we'll throw in a little blurb on that because I feel as though that needs to be added in here as well. So with that, let's jump over to the other one, right? So we just got done doing SHA. Let's jump over to SAH. And can you tell us, Clay, what is SAH?
Yeah, so SAH is specially adapted housing, which sounds the same,
Yeah, it does.
and at principle they're all the same. Okay,
Right.
it's to improve your home. That's the principle, or your car, or whatever. But they come with I would say different policies or different authorities. So, for instance, SAH, the adapted housing. Let's say I'm in a wheelchair and I'm buying a home. Okay. I need a roll in and out shower. If there's a home I want to buy or purchase, that grant for SAH can be applied to the principal of that mortgage. Little niche situations like that, no one's gonna know that. Okay. You can read Title 38 to really, really see where that reference is at, but you're probably not gonna find it, right? So it gets back to the accredited rep. No one is gonna know that you can actually do that. Your lender's not going to know, and your real estate agent's not going to know, right? And if they do, that's awesome. But little things like that. But SAH is specially adapted housing, and it really looks at adapting your house for whatever it is you got going on, whether you're buying a home or you are remodeling a home that you already own, or you're buying a home that's already been remodeled for that specific purpose. SAH can really, really come in clutch for that veteran and their severe disabilities.
Got it. And look, so the bottom line is you have to either own or will own your home, right?
Yeah.
Own or will own. And you have to have a qualifying, and this goes back to the very beginning of this conversation. You have to have a service-connected disability that qualifies you for it. Just having the disability doesn't help you. It has to be a service-connected condition. Okay. So here, the qualifying service-connected disabilities include the loss or loss of use of more than one limb, the loss or loss of use of a lower leg, along with the residual lasting effects of an organic disease or injury, blindness in both eyes, certain severe burns, the loss or loss of use of one lower extremity, foot, or leg after September 11th. Now, here's the interesting thing. Only 120 veterans and service members, again, this is open to either or, right? So veterans and service members, only 120 veterans and service members each fiscal year can qualify for a grant based on the loss of one extremity after September 11th, 2021 is set by Congress. So, I don't know how many of these actually go through every year, but, if you want to apply, I would do it sooner than later, right? So a fiscal year runs from October 1st. It's using the federal fiscal year. So, here we are halfway through this year. So maybe the 120 have been taken. Don't know. Apply anyway. You might get denied. Who knows? But if you have to apply again, apply again. Do you know how much this SAH pays out, Clay?
I don't have that pulled up, so I definitely
Nice.
want
I
you
do.
to do that. But I will say this: I was not tracking the limit per fiscal year, which it's unsettling to hear. Actually, it kind of bothers me, and
Right.
so that just real quick, um, I would like someone at some point to grab the data of all who meet the requirements but were denied because of the cap. And if that's the case, I would probably do a strong argument for some legislation to be passed because that's
Right.
baloney. That don't sit right with me at all.
Absolutely. And it's just the one conduit. I mean, and granted, any avenue in should just be an avenue in, right, with no limitations. So it's only if you have two amputated limbs, then this doesn't apply.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for the one
Just a single.
amputated, qualifying on the loss of one extremity after September 11th, 9/11, right? So of 2001. But yes, I agree. I don't think there should be a limitation on any of that. And if it's 120, then how did they set that? And if they set that at 120, were they thinking that was going to be pretty much covering everybody? Well, then if so, then why not let it be 130 and just have a little extra, or why even have anything then is kind of the thing. So, but yeah, so it's $117,014. If you qualify for an SAH grant, you can get up to $117,014 for fiscal year 2024. And again, it changes every year. It says here that both of these must be true. You or your family own or will own the home. So there's a little caveat there. You or a family member. So if you're living with a family member, right? So in some cases, I can't really fully take care of myself. I'm going to move in with my kids, right? So now I'm living. I was going to say my parents, but I'm like, my parents can't take care of me anymore. It would be the other way around. So, because now I'm getting to that age in life, right? Clay, you're young enough. Me, on the other hand, it's like, yeah. So I'd have to go move in with my 27-year-old and then adapt his house is what would happen. So that's how that would work. So depending on your circumstances and your age is probably going to be a factor on that. But the bottom line is you or a family member own or will own the home. You have a qualifying service connected disability. And again, on that own or will own home piece, look, it's hard to buy a house in today's world. This might be an opportunity depending on where you live, right? At California Bay Area, maybe not. But if you are in Oklahoma or some cities in Texas, right? Some towns in Texas, not Austin, other areas in Texas where things are still affordable, wherever, right? So you pick your flavor, you get my point, but you can utilize this money in the purchase of the home and having it built to your specifications. So it's kind of like a big down payment, right?
It's a huge down payment.
Right. So if you need to move in with a family member, but the family member's renting, right? Maybe now you're having that conversation of, hey, look, let's me move in with you. Let's together buy this house. And now everybody wins, right? So you have to think outside of the box a little bit and look for ways to leverage some of these benefits. It does say here, qualifying service-connected disabilities include the loss or loss of use of both hands, certain severe burns, and it also says certain respiratory or breathing injuries. And that's going to be big because when you're talking about respiratory and breathing, who are we talking about now? We're talking about the whole Gulf War situation, right? And those conditions that are now, a lot of them are presumptive, great. Sadly, and this is the weirdest world, and I'm going to throw it out there. I always say this. It's the weirdest world where it's like everything bad is answered with, "Oh, great," like, "Oh, my condition really sucks." "Oh, awesome! You're going to get a whatever," right? So, whatever. We get it because we all chewed some of the same dirt to one extent or another. But these respiratory and breathing injuries are probably not going to get better.
Yeah.
And as they get worse and it's harder to just walk from your living room to your kitchen, right? Maybe some of this stuff will come into play for you. And it's important that you're aware, is the bottom line. So with that, I'll kick it back to you for final thoughts on SAH, Clay, and then we could jump from there.
Yeah, no, to double tap the respiratory conditions, it's really good. There's two that come to mind. There are more. There's two that come to mind for Gulf War era. It's going to be COP D will probably be the most common that will pave the way for these benefits, so to speak. And then severe asthma. Just to be clear, not your 30% or 10% asthma. Probably going to be, I mean, obviously 100%, maybe the 60% criteria. But I'm just thinking of any situation, right? So in my house, there's a slight hill that you have to walk up. If I had 100% asthma, that's not happening. Okay, that's not happening at all. And so maybe that would. I don't have 100% asthma, but if I did, that's something that would make me think, hey, let's talk about adaptive housing. I don't know what that would look like if you do have severe asthma, but what I do know is if you have this disability and it paves the way for a housing grant, just go talk to a rep, right? We don't know what we don't know. And there's a billion situations that are very niche that only apply to you, right? So Jason and I can give you a scenario, but that would apply to like 1 in a million veterans. And so if you do rate any of these or think about rating them, just go talk to a VSO, do your own research, have that conversation. And the down payment thing, that didn't really cross my mind until you had brought that up. Imagine having a down payment, let's just say half of 117, which is a little less than 60. I'm not gonna do that math on camera, but let's just say 55, right? That's a large amount. You know, you're looking at a home that's 300 grand. That's a sixth of the cost right there. That's a huge down payment. I don't know if it would factor in the down payment from a lender perspective, but again, we don't know what we don't know, right? And so that could open up some very huge avenues. That's a whole other benefit in itself is having a down payment. Okay. But again, if this applies to you, just look at it, look it up, have that conversation. And especially if we're talking about these benefits, I would argue 1000%. If you're at the severity to rate these, you absolutely need to be taking advantage of these, not just for you, but like I said earlier, your family. Okay, that's going to lessen the burden on their life as well, and obviously the veteran's life as well. There too. Okay.
And I'm gonna add in there. So this is directly from the VA's website. Can I get a specially adapted housing grant? So that's the SAH. You may be able to get an SAH grant if you're using the grant money, using the money to buy or build or change your permanent home. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't rent, I would say try not to change that rental house, right? So now if you buy or build, and if you need to pull in other family members to do that, it might make sense. So again, I'm giving you the information for you to do your deep dive specifically, but there's also just on the home loan piece, since we're there, if you are service connected, you do not have to pay the VA funding fee, which is a substantial amount of money, right? Service connected at any percentage. Here's the workaround on that if you don't already have a service connection. If you file an intent to file, then 6 months later, you buy a house with a VA loan, but you're not service connected and you pay your VA funding fee. Then 6 months after that, you get rated, but they back pay you to your intent to file date. Now you were service connected prior to using your VA loan. And you can inform your lender and they will refund your VA funding fee. So just an important piece to understand there, a little extra piece. So do you want to jump into the temporary real quick?
Yeah,
to share that with folks?
Temporary residence adaptation. I had to do some Googling real quick just to spin myself up on it. It's very similar to everything that we've been saying. So HISA, SHA, SAH, and then you have the temporary residence adaptation. So there's two qualifying factors. It's an and statement, not an or. It means you have to have both. So you have to qualify for HA or AH. We'll just say everything we've been talking about. And verbatim, it says you're living temporarily in a family member's home that needs changes to meet your needs. And I'll give you an example. One of my friends on his Afghan deployment took a round in the knee, the hip, and the shoulder. Okay, straight line. He went through years of physical therapy. He's good now. He actually just went skydiving a few months ago. Dude's nuts. But that happened in 2012, and so we're talking a solid 8, 9, 10 years of recovery. He does have adaptive housing. Okay. And that helps him. And so that is a great example of, I don't know if he used TRA, but I can tell you he used adaptive housing. And that worked for him and his family because he had a wife and children. And so now, instead of dealing with dad's inability to get into the home, now there's this awesome ramp walkway thing that's kind of automatic, right? So it assists him when he goes up. That's just a great example of someone who did take advantage of this. And he is not an amputee. He's not, luckily, right? He's not any of those things, but he did have a very rigorous physical therapy track. He's fine now, right? I say fine, that's with a grain of salt, but he's
Right.
living life to his best ability. Yeah. Okay. TRA, Jason, what do you have?
So I'm going to recap a couple things here real quick. HISA, you can get your landlord to say, yeah, you can make some adjustments to the house. Cool. SAH and SHA, you need to own the house or you're going to have to own the house, right? You either need to be in the process of building, buying, or currently own. Mm-hmm. So then TRA is kind of like that hybrid of giving you more benefit, but with some requirements lessened, like owning the house. It kind of slides back over to similar to HISA, except for it has to be a family member. So you yourself can't own a house, right? It has to be, I don't own a house and I'm living temporarily with my in-laws or whatever. And my temporary status is probably going to be several years or more. So it says here, both of these must be true. You qualify for the SAH or SHA grant based on the requirements. You're living temporarily in a family member's home that needs changes to meet your needs. So to use the TRA grant, you don't need to own your house, right? It's a family member's home. So you'll need to prove that. Now, what happens is instead of, say, getting $117,000 from the SAH, right? They reduce that down to $47,130. If you qualify for the SHA grant, that's the smaller one, which was $23,000 or something like that. But you want to use TRA because you don't own a house and you want to use it for your family member's house, then it gets reduced to $8,415. So just wanted to give you those dollar figures here real quick. Now, so that wraps up kind of the housing piece. At this point, we've covered the car allowance or automobile allowance rather, the HISA, the SAH, the SHA, and the TRA, all housing focused. These are huge benefits with big dollar amounts and life-changing outcomes. Let's leave this on clothing allowance, probably the easiest to get benefit that we're going to talk about today with regard to grants and allowances. This classifies as an allowance. It's probably the easiest one to get. I wanted to, talk a little bit about it, shine a light on it, talk about some of the must-dos with this because, it's one of those, again, it's a little bit hidden over here and people might have heard about it, but they don't really know anything else about it. What do you have for us, Clay?
Yeah, so the back to Barney style, right? To put us in the right framework for this, the most common is going to be skin medications. So I'll tell you a bit about myself. I'm rated 10% for acne, not on my face. Okay, I'm not. That was the case when I was like 16,
It's
but
all
not
over your
now.
feet, huh?
No, it's my back. It's not
I'm
your
just,
typical acne.
yeah, yeah.
It's not your typical acne. So I did have cream that would bleach my pillows and my sheets and my clothes, and that would qualify for the clothing allowance. Okay. Um, of note, let's say you're on medication. Just because I talked about acne, I know this is going to come up in a question. If you take Accutane, which is a pill, just because you have a skin condition doesn't
Mm,
automatically mean you're going to rate the clothing
right.
allowance. And the same thing happens for like ankylosis or an amputation. Just because you have that doesn't mean you're going to rate the clothing allowance. Now, it's probably a high probability, just to be real, but I want to, it's not an end all be all, one size fits all. So skin conditions is going to be the most common, especially if you're on cream medications that do bleach clothes. But it says here, and I want to read this so I don't mess it up. It says your skin medicine causes damage to your outer clothing, like your pants or shirts. That can't be repaired. Okay, that part's key. So just because you're taking some CVS, acne wipes, whatever, and it messes up your clothes, but you put them in the wash or you put some stain remover and it goes away, that's not the clothing allowance. Okay, we're talking about clothes that have been damaged permanently, like a big blotch. Bleach won't do it. Then you can go ahead and put in for the clothing allowance. And I feel like I had to say that up front because a lot of people say clothing allowance this and clothing allowance that, but it's important to understand what rates that. It's also important to understand what doesn't rate that benefit. So you can just say, hey, where do I fall in that? Okay. Or or you have acne for whatever reason, you don't seek health care for it. This would be another argument outside of one, your health. You should seek health care for your health, period. Right. But if you aren't, seeking health care in this instance could open up an avenue for benefit, like the clothing allowance. Okay. But the skin's going to be the most common for that. I'll say one more thing, then I'll shut up. It could be a prosthetic, right? And again, just because you have a prosthetic or some sort of orthopedic device, if it doesn't damage your clothes permanently, that doesn't rate the clothing allowance. If it does damage your clothes, so I had a shocking thing on my wrist. I forgot what it's called. It was for like physical therapy on the go. Um, Sometimes it would heat up, and in one instance, it burned a hole through my shirt. Right. That's yes, you can sew it up, but that would rate it being not repaired. Okay, I've
Right.
since gotten another machine because I'm not dealing with that. But it's not always an amputee. Okay, it could
Right.
also be some sort of orthopedic device.
Yeah.
Um, maybe a huge brace. And you need bigger pairs of pants. That would be an example of being being awarded the clothing allowance. All right, Jason.
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I'm on track with you with the like a knee brace or something like that, that has the metal bars in them. You know what I mean? You
Exactly.
got that metal
Mhm.
bar in there, and you still want to wear your super skinny jeans, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to rip through, right? Eventually, it'll wear. I mean, I get a hole in my pocket from carrying my cell phone around, so I mean, it's you're gonna eventually it will wear. And that's why the clothing allowance is a one time a year payment. You're not getting, you're not going to get rich off of the clothing allowance. It's meant to replace the damaged clothes that may have taken a year to wear through, right? Um, it's just an additional benefit that we want to make sure people are aware of. You nailed the two things, prosthetic or orthopedic devices, or skin medications. And like you said, it's not this medication, it's the actual, cream medication, because you popping a pill is not going to affect your clothing.
Yeah.
One of the things that's interesting is uh, the question, and I'll pose it to you first, and we'll see what you have on it, and then we'll go from there. So, can I get more than one payment
For
for clothing?
clothing allowance. Okay, I'm going to I'm gonna give you an answer. I don't know it's right though. I am pretty sure it's an annual one-time payment. Annual meaning once per year. Now, can you get that payment multiple years? Yes, absolutely, every year. Fact check me on that, Jason, because I feel like you
Okay.
have the answer.
So I'm going to just read it. So you may be able to get more than one payment if, and they don't mean like, subsequent years. They're talking about in the
Yep.
year. So you may be able to get more than one payment if you meet at least one of the requirements listed here. At least one of these must be true, and they have 3 bullet points. You have more than one prosthetic or orthopedic device. So, your bad knee and your bad elbow or whatever, right? Or you have a leg that's off at above the knee and you have your device there, and then you have some sort of weird elbow brace that's tearing your shirts and then you're tearing your pants, right? So that's 2 things. You have more than one skin medicine, and or your device or skin medicine affects more than one type of clothing. So you can go back to, okay, I have acne on my back and I have this cream and it's dissolving my shirts because it's like acid, and then I have a knee brace, for an example, that's tearing through my pants.
Okay.
So the answer is yes, you can. The clothing allowance form is 10-8678. 10-8678. And because, did you file for clothing allowance before, or did you just not because you didn't think it was that big of a deal?
I am
You
in the category of you don't know what you don't know.
Nice.
Right.
So as far as filing your clothing allowance, you must file for your there's a specific time period. Yeah. It's not like all these other things, right? The only other thing that of today's conversation that we could even equate this to would be the fiscal year for the 120 veterans who have one amputated limb for the housing grant. So this one, to get your yearly payment, you'll need to qualify by August 1st of that year, which means you need to file before that. We collect applications throughout the year and hold them until August 1st, closing date. If you qualify, you'll receive your payment between September 1st and October 31st. So if you're watching this video and it's before August, right? So July, if it's July or sooner and you feel like you could qualify, fill out that application and get it submitted prior to August 1st. Don't wait till the very last day. Do it at a minimum a week, as soon as you can, is really the bottom line. You can't rely on the VA doing like a same day turn. Things happen. And then woe is you if it's like, August 1st or August 2nd or whatever. And they're like, oh, sorry, we're going to hold on to this all the way until next year and then pay you out 2 months after that. So it can be somewhat substantial. Okay. Think about it. You're receiving this payment typically around October. The payment is $999 and change. It changes every year. It'll probably go up again. So then it'll be over $1,000, right? So it's a great benefit, and it's an often kind of, I kind of heard about it, and I don't really know. It's not really that big of a deal. I'm already 100%. Why poke the bear type of a thing? And it is absolutely a benefit that's there for us because the VA gets it, or maybe it's not even the VA, right? Maybe it's the lawmakers that got it, right?
Yeah.
But for however it happened, and now it's a benefit for us because there is damage happening to our clothing, and we shouldn't be held accountable to keep paying for that. Now, are you going to go on and buy a Versace suit? I mean, who knows, right? I mean, there's some of us out there that could maybe find one, right, and want to wear it. But whatever, you can pick up a few items, for $1,000, depending on what brand you're seeking, but you can take care of some stuff with $1,000 a year. So that, we'll kick it back to you for final thoughts. And I want to know, are you going to be putting in your application?
So I was on the cream personally. I had switched to Accutane, which is a pill.
Right.
It's a very strong medication. So that's a whole other conversation. Accutane is wild, I can tell you that. The cream's annoying. So no, I won't be, because
There you go.
I fall in the I can't
Right.
category. Now, could
Right.
I the past 3-4 years? Yep, I absolutely could have. Right, it's just something that
Well, and there you are, and there you are,
it's me.
$3,000 short.
It's
Right.
me. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
My last thought on this, because I know this is going to, I can see myself falling in this category too. With these benefits, I know veterans are going to have that thought in their back of the mind saying, you know what, I'm not a double amputee. I still have both of my ankles. I still have my shoulder range of motion. You know, I'm not going to worry about these benefits. And I get that. I understand that thought process, but it really gets back to what you had just said about these benefits are for you. Okay. If your range of motion on your shoulders is stuck here, and you can't get the cereal for breakfast in the morning, and then you have to call your spouse or your parent or your sibling to say, "Hey, it's breakfast time. Can you get the cereal for me?" That's a 20 years of that gets annoying, right? And so if not for yourself, do it for your family. That's really,
Yeah.
these benefits are for you is pretty much the only thing I have to say about that. And the evidence piece of that. So, okay, these benefits are for you. Got it. Well, now what? Next step is go talk to your healthcare team. Be open about it, saying, "Hey, I can't reach the cereal. I can't get the bowl. I can't get a spoon. I can't drive my car because you have to have a hand like this. So I'm over here driving like this." That's not safe. Okay, not safe at all. So have that conversation with them, and if you do rate these benefits, take advantage of them. And if you don't, if you have that conversation, you built your evidence, you submit the package, and is denied, depending on what's actually going on, then you can decide, hey, do I want to fight for this benefit, or do I understand their reasoning, right? But you don't know what you don't know. Don't be like me and all of the clothes. I still have clothes right now upstairs that have bleach on them. It's one of my favorite shirts. It's a John Party shirt that I got at a concert. I'm not throwing it away, but it's bleached, right? That shirt's not getting better. And I could have bought another John Party shirt with that clothing allowance, right? So
Probably
don't
even
be me.
signed.
Probably, right? You know what? That might be something. I might write him a letter and send him this video.
Yeah. Nice.
But don't be that guy. Okay. Don't be
Right.
me in that instance. That's really all I have to say is take advantage, build your evidence, and don't leave money on the table. Because it's what you're going to leave it to the government, right? That's your plan. You're going to leave money to the government. So it's just really my personal two
Yeah.
cents on that issue.
Agreed. And, I'll give you my last final thoughts and we'll wrap it up for you guys. I absolutely agree with you that, look, these benefits are there. We didn't write them. We weren't the ones who, made them possible. They are there for us. Do not ever feel guilty for applying for them or receiving them.
Yeah.
They are there. And the moment that we stop using them, you could bet they will disappear. So, in order to ensure that these benefits will survive for future generations, which a lot of us have our own children in the military and will be utilizing these benefits in one way or another later on, and to ensure that they're still there, we need to make sure that we're using them, right? So that's all I have to say on it, and we'll end it there. This has been a great episode filled with great information. I hope that you share it, like it, all that good stuff. We really, really appreciate you. Have a great one, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.